Hi everybody. This is going to be a couple of videos showing how I do case binding. Now, generally people learn what I call a three-piece case, which is to say you've got the spine stiffener, the card and that goes across the spine, the two cover boards, so that's three pieces, and then those three pieces are adhered to the covering material. Turned in, you got a case. A lot of people have done them for a very long time, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's a little tricky to measure because you've got to make sure that you leave enough space for the joints without leaving them too big for edge problems, blah, blah, blah. So I was taught what I've come to call the four-piece case. The late David Bourbeau called it a precision case, which is not a bad way to put it because it does allow more precision when you're building it. Four piece is less judgmental, let's say. Right? Four pieces, three pieces, if it's precise, that's up to you. But anyway, when you do a case binding, you have to start with a text block. So this text block that I'm doing these on is a perfect binding. They came, the text blocks came already cut into single sheets, which we were hoping not to have happen, but there you go. So I did fan bind. There's going to be 27 of these guys. This is Mort. Anyway, going to be a square back to lessen all the aggravation. When I do a fan bind, a perfect binding, whether it's rounded or a square back, once the initial glue up is dry, I put it into a press, and then I take either a saw or a file, and if you can see here, I've got some pencil lines here, here, here. You might be able to see a little bit of highlight, okay, across where the kettles go, and then about 4 diagonals. I think this is technically called a lumbec, but I saw just far enough down, for a millimeter maybe. And then I take a piece of sewing cord and I untwine it, so I get the thinner plies. And then I PVA those into the saw cut. Oh, excuse me. Excuse me. Mort needs salt. Let them dry again. And then the next step is I generally make them a little long, so I'll cut them off flush to the side of the text block. And then I fold and cut a single folio end sheet, which is then tipped on. Okay? That's a fairly, standard process. And then a Japanese paper spine liner / hinge. And at that point, the text blocks are complete. I'm not going to talk about round spines. I'm not going to talk about rounding and binding here, or rounding and backing. I will talk about that. That's going to deserve another at least full video and probably 2. Okay, so once you've got your text block complete, you're ready to cut your case pieces. So to measure for the spine, again, this is a square back book. This one's already cut. So the one thing I don't have is a piece of scrap paper. Let me just... Bad planning. Okay. The paper strip, which everybody needs to know how to use. We already talked about that. All right. For this guy, I'm just going to wrap it around. Here's my spine width. Set your dividers. If you're working efficiently, you will set the front gauge of your board shear to this distance, then you can just cut them all off. You will make sure, it's a little narrow. Let me see. Actually, that'll be okay. Normally, you want it to be, especially with a round spine, you definitely want it to be just exactly the width. With a square, you can leave yourself a little slack, a little bit extra there, and it'll give you a little bit of a triangular shape. So, not too big, but this is okay. I'll talk about round spines later. All right, so there's my spine strip. I have already cut the boards. Excuse me. Thank you. Okay, square corner. I generally like to put the square corner at the upper head, you know, the head and spine intersection. That's just me. All right, and you can see, I hope, it's about what we're looking for. I like to keep my squares tight, although not, if they're too tight, they're going to look pinched. You also want to keep in mind that as the book closes and opens, you're going to the foredge is going to retreat a little bit. It's going to get narrower. So it's good if you can just leave the foredge a hair wider than your head and tail squares. The other thing I need to do, I need to grab another pressing board, which is hiding from me. Here we go. I'll put this on top so you can see. Now, here comes, this is kind of the important part. You need to measure the width of the joint. So this is where this structure really sings, because we can measure it now, and we can use the same joint across this whole short run. So the first thing you do is you have, this is the fourth piece to the 4-piece case. You got the spine strip, the 2 boards, and the hinge strip. Now, since this is a Bredel variant, I think some people feel that it needs to be a heavier stock. On a larger book, you can get away with that. On a smaller book, it's not going to flex enough to really work well. So I generally, unless it's necessary, I stick with a text weight paper. This is, our stock Hahnemühle. Now it's 100 grams. Used to be 90 grams. I have glued up the spine strip to the hinge strip, and I need to give it a little crease. Okay, it's well if after you glue the 2 together, you just take and run your folder. That'll make it a little easier to crease. Okay. You can put these guys together with PVA or hot glue. I prefer hot glue when I can get it. My glue pot is running now, but okay. So now I have folded this into a U. All right. If they're not exactly the same width on both sides, it's not critical. Then you arrange your text block on the board so that the squares are correct, and you can see that I've got a little bit of space here for the joint. Now, a square back can take a wider joint than a rounded spine. With a rounded spine, you want it to be nice and crisp and tight where it comes up over the, goes across the joint and up onto the board. With this, you can allow a little extra, and so that gives you a little bit of leeway. But with either way, you take your spine strip, and I'm going to slide it in between the book the text block and the board, okay? Can everybody see what's going on there? See if I can see what's going on there. I think so. I'm gonna move this down just a little bit. This way. Okay, so I'm gonna hold this and I'm gonna pick it up so that you can see it. All right, everybody see that? I'm gonna put it back down. I wouldn't normally pick it up. And where the hinge strip comes across the spine edge of the board, I'm gonna make a pencil mark. Okay, can everybody see that? All right, that's the width of my joint. And if all your pieces are uniform and you're doing multiple copies, this will fit for all the books across the run. So I'm going to move this. You can see that. Set my dividers. Now the thing about this is, this too is, it is arbitrary because you've made your by eye choice of spine or of joint width and squares and all. But once you've done that, then it's not arbitrary anymore. This is it. This is the joint that's going to work here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to poke 1, 2, 3 pricks on each side of the spine. Okay. Now, may as well go ahead and put this bad boy together. And that will be the end of this video. If there are any questions, please feel free to ask them in the comments. All right. So what am I going to do here? Let me grab my glue pot. I could use, again, I said that. Could use PP. There we go. I would normally hang this over the edge of the board, so I'm going to put a board here and I'm going to hang everything off the edge of this board. Okay, so here are my cover boards, having been cut to size. Gotten to the point where I like to do that. Going to arrange them. Okay, pretty good. So they hang over off the edge of the bench. We're going to pretend this is the edge of the bench. And you can see what I'm doing there. Got my folder. You can use a piece of newsprint to mask it off. I've kind of gotten out of that habit. But if you're, this is all new to you, it's probably a good idea to put a piece here. All right, so I'm going to first glue all 3 of these. See what's going on? Good. And while I'm gluing, I'm going to talk about something that I've seen a lot on YouTube recently, and I find it, well, it's not the way I would do it. I keep seeing these people who, when they apply adhesive, they take a squeeze bottle and they squeeze out, a little snake of PVA, and then they brush it around with a little brush. Makes me crazy, and I'm not trying to be harsh with anybody, but use a big brush. If you're gonna, the little squeezy thing just does not allow you to control the amount of adhesive that you're using, and doesn't strike me as best practice. Let's put it that way. All right, I got a straight edge here. Actually, I'm going to turn this. We good? We're good. Okay. So there's my spine strip. My straight edge. First board. Going to line it up with my 3 pinpricks. All right, everybody see that? Gonna, and the head of the spine strip. Now, I can't get my head over there because I'm going to be in the way of the phone. So you're just going to have to bear with me, and hopefully this will turn out okay. All right, so there's the one side. Here's the second side. Can everybody see how that lines with my pricks? Okay, that's a little off. Can come in. This is the other advantage of hot glue. You got a little time to work. You can fuss. All right, I'm gonna just flip this back over. Give it just a minute to dry. While I do that, I'm gonna grab my scissors. Normally I'd wait until I fitted this to the book. I'm just going to cut this off now. I don't even need that. You know, I'm going to fit it to the book. Okay, do as I say, not as I do. Text block. Okay, so can you see what's going on there? All right. This is, for all intents and purposes, you know, this is the case. This is how it's going to fit, which is okay. Now, with a lot less anguish, you can cover it and know that it's going to fit. And this is a huge thing. I mean, talk about a, you know, time saver. I just think it's worth the extra effort. And in fact, over the years, I have done what were for me significant sized additions with this structure. If you're doing multiples, you can build jigs and really, you know, cut your time down. Can't think of anything else to tell you now. This is, you know, this is a pretty important thing, I think, and it's really worth knowing how to do. It will, the final result, when it's done even halfway well, gives you a very crisp spine and nice joints. You don't need edged pressing boards to force the joint in. It just, it grows. And you'll see when I do when I cover it, you know, it's integral with the structure. This is just an elegant structure. I like it a lot. I've used it forever, and I will use it until I can't do it anymore. So if I have missed anything, if there's anything that isn't clear, please pipe up. And thanks everybody for subscribing. Thanks for sticking with me in spite of the big hiatuses. Hopefully they won't happen again. And I will be back shortly with the next step, which is a full cloth cover on this case. Thanks a lot, and you guys all take care.